Like, I just think we can be really scared to, be all in with social media specifically. And so because as much as I don't want to admit, like I worry about what people think all the time,
Sure.
So I think like COVID being home helped me sort of battle that, because it's like, we're here, we're home, we're at home. I got all this stuff. Like, I have no excuses except for my insecurities of what are they going to think? What are my friends going to think?
Right.
So that's what I meant. Like, I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to be present and be myself and have no regrets about it, So
I got this feeling in my bones I can't ignore. Don't you feel that?
Welcome to the Music Combine for today's episode. I'm really excited about this guest, Greg. He's been a friend of mine for probably close to about 16 years or so. And I met him when he was signed to Interscope Records, or to Universal, actually. And he was in a band called Barefoot. And they were managed by Joe Simpson, which, if you know Joe Simpson at all, he's the father of Ashley and Jessica. And it was around the time when Ashley was really taking off. He also managed Ryan Cabrera at the time as well. And they were under that management umbrella of the Simpson Cabrera kind of thing, under Simpson management. And I worked with these guys on a very big songwriting level of trying to get them to where they needed to go. And Jason Deering, who is on the show today, who is our guest, not only, when I met him as a young man in his early 20s, late teens, just awesome human being, but just also an amazing drummer, piano player, musician all around. He comes from a family, a really great family that's all musicians. I would go as far to say as Jason has perfect pitch, which annoys me to no end, because I don't. But the thing is I'm really excited to have him on the show, for him to give him his experience of being in the business, being signed, not being signed, being an independent artist now, being a session player. He's kind of done it all. He's a dad of about to be, 1.5 kids. He has one in the oven, one on the way. And I think there's a lot of great advice that could kind of be given to some of our listeners. So without further ado, Jason Deering, straight to us from Dallas, Texas this afternoon.
Welcome. Thank you for that very awesome introduction. Good to be on the show. Thank y'all for having me. So honored to be here.
Yeah, man. So good to see you. So, let's just kind of dive right in. I've given some of the background on where we kind of met and where you came from. Let's talk about your early career. Like, what really, your family obviously is a musical family. Mm-hmm. There's always been that, from us talking and stuff, there's always been that force. Your parents have their PhDs, they're teachers, right? They're music teachers.
Yeah. Both my mom and dad are teachers. My dad was a orchestra director. My mom's a piano teacher. So they both went to school for that. And then after they had their I have 3 brothers. So we all play an instrument and just kind of stayed in the family forever. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So by being in that type of musical family, was it kind of like the Partridge Family, where all the brothers would get together and play at holidays, or was everybody doing their own kind of thing?
We lived in a small town. And so, there were these telethons on TV, and we all started off playing violin. And so we called ourselves, my last name is Deering, we called ourselves the Deering Fiddlers. And so we'd all, line up and play these songs on the violin. It was so much fun. Such good memories.
So that's something new I know about you now. You play violin.
So that's the first instrument I started on. And then after that, we just kind of all naturally branched off. I was an orchestra in high school, then branched off to band and drums and all that. So that was a huge part of kind of my ear development, was learning an instrument that didn't have any frets. Because if it messed up,
it's relative pitch.
Yeah. So I started off that, and then randomly, I was at a relative's house and I sat down on a drum set and I was like, okay, I get it, So
I see Greg smiling in the background because Greg almost has a similar experience.
Yeah.
Much, yeah.
So it was great. Yeah.
That's always good. I think band, literally gives you the ability to learn to the discipline to not fiddle around between songs and really just on what needs to be done. And it gives you a lot of leadership qualities, especially if you're in the music program your whole life in school throughout the years. For me, it helped me. So when I did get into a band, all the guys that I was in with, they would, play between songs. I'm like, guys, we don't have time for this. And I'm like in 10th grade, right? And I'm like, they're like, what are you talking about? You can't tell us what to do. It's like, well, if you want to make music, you want to write these songs, I'm not going to be here unless you guys want to, you're going to keep messing around. So it really streamlines that process. And obviously, it branches off into all those other areas. But for you, it seems to, like, from your parents, like my parents didn't let me play drums. So I had to.
He did not grow up in the musical family of four.
No, I just remember they just kind of tolerated it, I guess. Like because my brothers branched off, and it was all by accident. We all played drums, bass, piano, and that was it. And then drums. So we would have this room set up where we would just make all kinds of noise, and they just dealt with it. I don't know. They were, in hindsight, thinking about it, I was like, man, they didn't ever tell us to just stop, which is awesome. So
because they come from that background. I mean, if they're teaching, your mom's a piano teacher, your dad's an orchestra. I mean, they probably have that ability to just shut their ears off and just let it. My parents didn't. My grandma lived with us. She had cancer, so it was like, Greg, you can't make noise. It's like, so,
right, yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
So I mean, you kind of go into this now. Now you're throughout school. You learn how to play this instrument, and now you're going into writing your own music. And how did that unfold?
So, Mike, do you want me to start with
I mean, how did you, because I mean, I know you on a much more cellular level. I mean, where was the jump between you being in high school playing in the Daring Fiddlers to, getting with Pearson and Mansell and Clay and Matt?
It was, so two of the guys we were good friends in high school. I was in jazz band, I joined jazz band and started drumming and all that stuff. And then after that, it was all just, like everyone's story, it was all just random. One of the guys happened to know another guy who introduced me to, Pearson, and, and then I'm trying to think of how the order happened, but essentially, one of the guys from my high school knew another guy from a different high school, and we just, started playing music together, in Dallas. And then basically, I mean, it's so long ago, but yeah, it was just like one guy knew one guy, and then we hung out and started playing together. So
and that's kind of how
boring.
Barefoot started. You met Clay met Fallenbaum.
Yep, yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, and so two of the guys went to Baylor, and then us.
Oh, right. So Mansell went to Baylor, and Chris. No, Pearson didn't go, did he? No.
Pearson went to Baylor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Pearson did go to Baylor. Okay.
So they went to Baylor, and then actually, this is crazy because this. Oh man. Y'all are making me, or allowing me to relive some of these moments. This band is the reason I'm married to who I'm married to right now. It's just crazy.
Right. Because the thing is when you guys were out here, because you guys would come out and live at the Oakwoods.
Yes.
If our listeners don't know, the Oakwoods, which is in Burbank, you will hear time and time again throughout band's history about living at the Oakwoods.
Yep.
The Oakwoods is settled on top of this mountain. It's the best way I can describe it. It's on the backside of the Hollywood sign. It kind of sits on top of Lake Hollywood, and then at the bottom of the hill from it, across the street from it's the back lot of Universal Studios. At the bottom of the hill is Warner Brothers Studios. So it's it's seated in the entertainment capital of the world, essentially.
Yeah.
And everyone goes there because that's the place to go. And I'm trying to think of some Pantera's stayed there. There's a lot of bands that have stayed there over the years. Nickelback talks about it in their book, whatever you think about Nickelback, but
the house that you stay at and write in and your collaborate.
No, it's an apartment. So what they do is they have really great monthly rates. So these labels and stuff will have accounts, and they'll basically, Oakwoods will charge them for whatever apartments that bands are using, and that will go back to the band's account. They recoup it, essentially. They have to pay that money back.
Gotcha.
Right.
Which most people don't realize.
Yeah, we didn't care. We're signed to a label.
Woo!
Yeah. But I'll never forget the banner when you pull up your car into the Oakwoods.
Yeah.
It literally says home of the famous and almost famous.
Yep.
It's like, I guess we're on the almost part. So.
And like the apartments are furnished, and like there's Murphy beds, and like the studios. Like I've been in a few of them. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Before you got to the Oakwoods, what was your like path to like streamline that story for us, where you're playing out, you're doing what you got to do, then you go to California, and now you're maybe showcasing for labels, or how did that come about? Just from
like, how did that kind of form together?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So really quick version of the story is, the lead singer of the band, his dad went to college with Joe Simpson, Ashley and Jessica's dad. So that was the whole connection to go to California. So wasn't
Jessica like Pearson and Pearson's sister's babysitter or something like that?
I don't know. I mean, they're family
like
friends.
Yeah. I feel like that's part of the story too. Is like Jessica actually babysat them.
So that was the whole connection of how we went from Texas to all of a sudden, getting signed. But so Joe signed us, he managed us, and he basically brought us to all these different labels and showcased for all these different labels. And they at that time, people weren't putting out singles like they are now, and so we got a development deal from Columbia Records, and they basically just moved us out to LA at the Oakwoods, and we just wrote with all kinds of producers and songwriters, and then we would record these demos and turn it in until we found a magical combination of producers. And yes, so that was the quick version to how we got to California. From the
one
Simpsons,
was like with you guys worked with Shepherd, you guys worked with Anders and Pear.
Yep. We worked with those two. Who else? We worked with so many people.
What was the other guy who'd worked for? I forget. His name's like Bobby or something. Worked for Britney. Wrote a bunch of Britney hits.
I don't remember. I don't remember that. We worked with a group called the Wizards of Oz.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of them? Yeah,
I remember them. Man.
They were great. And so we worked with a ton of producers in LA, and they all had their style of writing. And then randomly we heard about these two producers in Sweden, and they flew us out to Sweden, and we started recording. And it was just like that magical combination of exactly what we wanted, exactly what the label wanted to hear, and it was perfect. And they were such awesome guys, and so we hit it off. And then we went there, and then we ended up staying there for like 3 months doing the whole album.
Oh,
like start to finish. And back then I wasn't.
Well, you guys went to but before that though, when you guys came in contact with Anders and Pear, we worked at EMI together with them.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So back up to the writing with.
I'm part of this story too.
You're a huge part of the story.
Get me.
Yeah. So when we wrote in LA with producers, it was either at their house or we would go to like EMI studios, and so that's where I met Mike.
So the thing with EMI was that because you guys were writing with the writers, did you guys had a publishing deal with them?
We had a publishing with EMI. Yeah, we were signed to Geffen eventually, and then had a publishing deal with EMI, and so they brought us in there, and we would record with you. And oh man,
in that lovely place.
That lovely place. The Yamaha piano was amazing.
Oh, so. Alicia Keys used to love that piano.
Really?
Yeah, and I got to record her once or twice on it, and I think like twice. Alicia was always so cool. Man, when you meet that woman, number one, she's just so kind and nice, but also from all the years of piano, she's got a grip like a vice.
No.
I mean, like the first time I shook her hand, I was trying to be, because I have big, meaty, strong hands. She hurt me. I was like, whoa. But like, yeah, that piano has been used on so many projects, man. That's because it's like I think that one was like an 8-foot concert grand. It was in that small room.
Yep.
Behind the control room.
Yeah.
And that thing always sounded great. And I used to always leave the mics up for it, so if anybody ever wanted it always came like right up on the console.
Let me ask you.
It was. Oh, go ahead.
So when you're working with a bunch of producers, you guys were writing your own songs first, and then you would go in with producers and then sit with them and then hash out the compositions and stuff and such. And then how much did they contribute to the actual song? Like, what was the contribution?
Yeah, it was completely a together effort. Like, we would go in and either sometimes the producer would have an idea. And then we would just roll with it, or sometimes we would have a random idea and play it for them. So it was never ever, hey, here's a finished song, go produce it. It was always because because I think, frankly, like I think Joe saw potential in us, but he probably knew that we needed some, help with like just crafting a song a little bit, and so they always came in and helped us finish the song and wrote it together.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, there'd be times like we'd be working at EMI and it would be like, all right, they're working with this producer this morning, and then in the afternoon they're working with these guys.
Yeah.
And it was literally like a conveyor belt. And the thing is, people I always think understand, and Jason can explain more to this, is that when back then, and especially since they had a developmental deal, which they didn't stick with, which he'll explain that story too. But, the thing is, and I've talked about it on the show before, there are lists at these publishing companies where they are sent out by labels, or they are compiled by the publishing company of people who are looking for songs. I don't think it's that case that much anymore, because people end up working with the same songwriter producer more so than often or not. Just because the budgets aren't there the way they used to be.
Right.
Excuse me. But they literally, let me just adjust my volume real quick. They literally, run them through the mill like quickly. And I mean, the thing is like they're looking, you guys had to have written like, because like it was like every other week I would see you guys for a little while. It was about 3 months of that.
Yeah.
And like you guys would go over to this studio to work with this guy. And the one I remember the most, that I was laughing and a chuckle because I just remembered this story, was you guys had done it so much you thought you just throw a little joke to Joe, and you guys wrote a country song one day.
Yeah. That's right.
He was not happy.
Yeah, in hindsight, that was not. We shouldn't have done that, but
it was a great. But the thing is, they were so talented. It was a great sounding song. It could have been used for anything.
Yes,
it could have been used for anything.
It was a huge market.
But back to the point of you guys and how you did that. Did you feel? And I think I kind of know the answer to this. Did you feel that you guys were just up in the game every day? I mean, because like you weren't the only band I worked with that was like that. There was another band called Rev Theory that was on Interscope. And those guys would write with producers every freaking day and come up with a new song a day.
Yeah.
Eventually, like finished, ready to go. Here's the demo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just crazy because we were so young back then. Like none of us were married, and it was just like we're living and breathing it every day. So if we're getting up in the morning all day and writing, it was just, that's what we're here to do. And we did it all day, every day. I don't even remember ever complaining about like, oh, we're so busy. It was so
you're in it.
Cause we believed it. We're like, okay, we're about to be a big deal. And here we go. Like we're signed and here we are in LA and all this stuff. And so we just believed it, and I was ready. So, never once did I want to go home and like stop. It was just a cool learning experience. In fact, we basically wrote for like I think 4 years, or we released a band for 4 years, and so we always joke about how some of us didn't go to college. I didn't go to college, and so that 4 years was like my college, my learning experience. So it was a huge learning experience.
Which in a lot of ways is the best way to go. You don't have loans to pay back. 1, okay. 2, you got experience in the game, skin in the game, and 3, you have a head start over everybody else. And I got accepted to several really good music schools, and my parents' financial situation was too good for me not to get financial aid, and not enough to even go. So I made the choice myself to just get a job and be able to sustain my music. But when you're in your situation, that's the best situation and most ideal. And it's really cool that you got to be working with producers and you had song ideas, but you didn't have anything really set in stone, but you had the chance to really show your creative side and be able to write with other people and let your ego check it out. Really, because a lot of people are like, these are my songs and I'm not, or these are my ideas, I'm not sharing them with anybody else. So that's pretty, you guys at such a young age, especially at that age, whatever age you were, which was probably, your teens, right?
Like 20, we're like 22, 21, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Like, I'm in control of this,
Hold on a second. Little side note. You're not almost 40, really?
No. No.
Never. I'll take that out. But
I'm almost 38.
Oh, you're the same age. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
My birthday's October 22nd. What about you?
Nice. August 15th.
All right. It's going to be
So someone's coming up next week. What's up, buddy?
a little older than me.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of let's kind of go present day to now. Unless Mike, you want to say something?
No.
This is where it's I looked on your Spotify. We're all about this platform and giving back to the musician, and the musician mostly is the guy or gal that is kind of overwhelmed with not knowing where to start, and there's just too many shiny objects out there. That being said, now you're writing your music and you're putting it on Spotify. You have a lot of plays for your songs. How did you are you in marketing as well now? Is that something that you have?
No, I'm not in marketing. I just trying to fast forward the story, but I just started doing, and I know that I'm the king of overthinking, and so I just decided to just start and release something. And once I just started, things just started catching on. This distribution company in Nashville, they're called Tone Tree. That's who I distribute my music through. I got introduced to them from a friend, and it was just everything just happened so seamlessly, and it was all because I just decided to just not overthink and just start doing and just going for it, So
they're like that's awesome, man. So they're like a DistroKid or TuneCore, except they're an actual mom and pop or a house, like an actual brick and mortar.
I don't know if they're brick and mortar, but they are like a very small company, and they just I don't think you can necessarily sign on to them. Like go online and sign on. I think you have to kind of be connected with them, and they have to. You have to
kind of the A&R process where they approach you.
Yeah, and so I just chatted with.
That's a rarity these days.
Yeah. Because I was honestly doing research online about DistroKid and what's that Tone or
CD Baby
and all these people. Yeah. And so my friend was like, "Hey, you should try these people," and so it just kind of worked. And the first song I released, it was so funny because the first song I released is called Sunshine, and it did fine. But then I started to look into the what's the word? The amount of plays that it got on Apple.
Spins, yeah.
And so all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. It's gotten like, close to 1,000 plays or something on Spotify. But then over here on Apple, it's like 14,000. It's climbing like 1,000 a day. And I found out that I got on a huge Apple playlist. And I was like, whoa, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I can't believe this. So I got on that playlist, and it just, I don't know, it was amazing to watch that happen, all because I just decided to just go for it and not overthink it. I didn't have marketing. I didn't have any plans. All I knew was I have a studio here. I can make some music, and let's release it. So yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. And for everybody listening out there, it's one of those things where we do overcomplicate things. However, when we're looking for distribution, we're not even thinking about the old traditional companies that can help you and vet you out. I mean, I think that's what separates you from me and anybody else out there. It's all what you make it, but at the end of the day, if you have a team of people behind you that's going to believe in your music and vet you out, and then when they do vet you out, I guess they vet you out because they're actually going to put some skin in the game for your music, I would assume. So what was the incentive for you to go with them over any other platform that would be able to distribute your music?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really know if I thought it through like too much. I just knew that my friend used them, and he trusts them, and he loves them, and so I just kind of had a conversation with them about what I should do, and I just kind of went with them because it was either like DistroKid or CD Baby, these websites, or it could be with some real humans, and talking to them was just felt like the right choice. So I just went with them, and I really didn't know. I didn't understand everything completely, and I still don't. But they're great, and they put it on all the platforms and do all the things. So
when you're dealing with Tone Tree or someone like that, how is the experience varied and different from being on Geffen and to doing arena tours and stuff like that with Jessica? With Ashley, and all the stuff that you guys got to do.
Well, it's such a boutique type of environment that they're just a phone call or an email away.
Sure.
Compared to just the complete opposite.
Mogul like Geffen. Right.
Yeah. So you just never know when you'd hear from the president or when the next move was, and so you'd be doing a lot of waiting. Over here, it's a little bit more. I feel like I'm in charge, and it's empowering to feel that way.
Yeah.
So
there you go. And so you were drumming. Were you drumming for Ashley Simpson? Actually,
No.
So because of that relationship, was that?
Were you?
Yeah, just for a little bit. Yeah. So because of that relationship with Joe, he introduced us to that whole world of like, because we went on like a small tour. I played percussion for Jessica for just a little bit, and then after several years of like Barefoot / Jessica, then I started playing drums for Ashley, and we did this like small like TV tour thing, and then after that, I moved back home, and
Were you on the SNL? Were you on the SNL?
No.
I wasn't. I was post SNL. But
the funny thing about the SNL thing, I went to church with Chris, think Munsell, and because Pearson's sister was living with Ashley, she came, and it was literally 2 weeks after the Saturday Night Live thing.
Wow.
And, she was so nice and so sweet and so gracious. I mean, I would never, you would never say anything about it, but she was really cool girl. I was like, I hopped in your guys' van, and I was like, oh, there's Ashley Simpson.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So you were touring for how many years outside of making music?
Probably 10 or so. I mean, yeah, probably about 10 years or something like that. Off and on with different artists. I also played, because Ryan Cabrera was on the same management, I also played for Ryan just for a little bit. And so, so I just did that for a long time. And then I came back home and I was literally, they would fly me from Texas to LA, which is so rare now in hindsight. They would fly me back and forth and rent me a car, and I would be there and, for a gig or whatever. But so I was doing that. I was also playing for another guy in Dallas. His name is Jeff Johnson. He was like a Christian artist, so we'd play at like different churches and stuff. And so I'd go back and forth between Ashley and Jeff, and then eventually I just being married and the natural way of just wanting to stay home as you get older started happening, and I started developing this small studio and just this itch to like not go anywhere anymore. And so I was like, I quit everything except Studio World now. So
well, that's the thing. Well, that's working for you, right? That's why you're doing right now. So
yeah, totally. Yeah.
So let's talk about that experience. So how have you found it from being kind of the hired gun and co-writing with other people to now, are you co-writing with people, or is it pretty much the JD ship on its own?
It's pretty much me. The only thing I've done is hired a horn player to play on some stuff, but other than that,
I've been using Logic horns lately. Not the greatest.
Jason, your music's really good, man. I mean,
thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm really. It was really captivating yesterday. I was listening to it. You're resemblant of JT. Very, very.
I hear that, and it's a huge compliment. I don't think of it as anything else, but like, if you're gonna compare me to one of the biggest stars in the world, then I'm all for it.
And you can play different instruments and have the discipline to be able to get the right takes and put them all together and then release it like that. I mean, you're at the helm of you got the world in your hands, man.
Yeah, dude, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Well, it was kind of I would randomly sing like background vocals when I would play live gigs, and I would also record just songs of my own of just singing, or I'd make silly jingles and stuff like that. And people just started catching on. They're like, dude, you got to do something with that. And I was like, I don't know. I'm a drummer. Like, I identified as a drummer, but it was almost a limitation where I was like, you're a drummer. That's what you do. Like, don't stay in your lane,
Yep.
And, but I was like, okay, I'll just stay in my lane. And then eventually I don't know, it's something, just a light bulb went off. And I was like, if I don't do something that I'm going to regret this. And I think that's a big deal for me, is I don't want to have that regret of like waking up, 20 years later and like thinking, man, I should have.
On your on your ability to be able to create in different ways. Like, I think, we limit ourselves a lot when we, like, I do the same thing, not on your level, unfortunately, working at it, but been in a band at the same time. So when things weren't getting done on the band front, because I can only do so much with so many people, and my dad, actually, it's going on 3 years now, he passed away. He would always say, why don't you do your own music? I really like your music. Like, that's really good. I know, your band's good and stuff, but if you can't control what they do, then why don't you just do your own thing? So that clicked right there. And then I went into the studio and started doing my own thing. But it was kind of scary because usually you have pre-production that's done and you go in and you're prepared. But I had the acoustic recorded and my melodies and the lyrics. So everything else was I never jammed with a drummer. So I went in, played to my scratch track of my acoustic, and then basically the drums came to me, because obviously when you're a drummer, it's a lot easier to write and compose songs. So I think when you come from an aspect of being an original artist and you're a drummer, you have a one-up on most musicians, because you're able to see the composition and you see the writing on the wall, and things just start to unfold. So I literally sat on the set, heard what I did, and then all of a sudden, from the super conscious of up there, the innate came to me, and I was like locked right in, and I nailed everything that I would do in every session that I had. And it was like, it gave me the validation that I was in the same mindset as you, like, should I just know my place, take my place? Yeah, I could be better at a lot of things, but the idea, I can get it across, and I can get it across well. And then when my friends heard it, they're like, oh, wow, that's good. They were like taking forever to get stuff done. And I'm like, see, you can get things done a lot faster if you streamline the process. And I didn't want to be an egotistical maniac, but I just wanted to prove to myself that it's able to get done. So that's what you've done. Yeah. And then the streams that you have on the platform is significant. Now this is a question that's really important. Right now, you're earning a living through these monetizations of going with Tone Tree, the distribution company?
I'm earning money. I would not call it a crazy living just yet. My wife and I both work, so we're together on the income. But I am making some. Also, a big piece of the puzzle for me, which is super cool, is that the songs are now available for licensing as well. And so I go through a company called Music Bed, and they're in Dallas, they're in Fort Worth, but they're amazing. And so long story short, they approached me after they heard the first song, and they just said, man, this is something we don't have on our website. It's just so fun and so positive and all this stuff. And so we just went for it. And so I became a Music Bed artist for strictly for licensing. And it has been so awesome, like so great. Is
that what you're doing full time now?
Basically, like, I'm doing the studio full time, and then I'm, full time dad, and just kind of like balancing that life, which has been great. So like I don't do anything else other than work in the studio and raise a family and stuff. So, but it's just mixing those two things, like the streaming and then the licensing, has been the two ways that I make some income. And then also I'll play like on the weekend, or I used to before COVID, I played at church, and would make money that way as well. So
Jason, you got those gospel chops?
I want to so bad. I mean, I had the desire for it, but that wasn't my, like, when I would go play at church, it was more the contemporary, like, slower, simpler stuff. But then, like, when we would do sound check, I would try to throw in the gospel chops.
It's all about disposition of rudiments. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I used to be so much into double bass pedal, and then I started thinking, I started watching these gospel guys probably about 3.5-4 years ago, and I started studying the way they play and the way they distribute around the kit. And I'm, a lot better than I was, but it was a challenge. But at the same time, I always make sure that I'm using the most out of my one foot. You know what I mean? Before I even decide to go to the double pedal, I'm not going to cop out. It's kind of like, it's like a discipline thing, but at the same time, it's like, okay, do I really need to use the double bass pedal to go? I don't really, So I think that's like my favorite kind of drumming out of all drumming.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Guys,
I love it.
And I'm like sitting there watching church videos and like watching drumming. I'm like, I'm sitting there like trying to copy them. I'm like, I wish I was in church. It'd be awesome. I joined youth group because they used to say I could play drums. So I used to go all the time, and they'd be like, all right, it's time for a Bible study. And I'm like, but can I play the drums a little bit?
Yep.
But it's a great.
I love that style.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. It's sort of where the, my R&B sort of style, I don't know, that I lean towards that for some reason. I just love the groove and the chords. And when those drummers would lead up to a chord, like lead up to a hit, they would do this like just amazing gospel chop fill, and it would just go right into this crazy chords. And I just love it so much. I could do a podcast about that. I love it.
Ask you about that because it's something drummers I have like friends that like are like wanting to be drummers, and they're like, yo man, can you think about gospel chops? I'm like, no, just watch gospel chops. It's like there's a couple sessions, a guy, he does soul tone cymbals, and he's like talking about gospel chops, and that's what it's called, and then he goes through the whole thing. So that's freaking cool. But regardless of that, we're going off in a tangent, but
I'm sorry.
No, it's still relevant.
Oh, it's awesome.
Because it's what we're into, right? So R&B, like Barefoot, was it more rock oriented versus what you're doing now?
Rock, pop.
Oh yeah, pop rock all day. Yeah, with like harmonies, just as pop rock as you can get. So yeah, and so I always had this R&B thing, tucked away in my mind, and just kind of put it away for a while, and then we did the pop rock thing. So
acting on your impulse.
It was, I remember when I knew you guys were like ready to get to the next level. And this is just a quick story from my observation. I remember we wrote Rain at EMI, right? Yeah. Part of it, and then it got finished, I think, in Sweden. Something happened with Rain that like I was like small part of it. And then Anders and Bear finished it at Marlin, or we did it in Marlin.
Yeah, because it was done in Sweden. I know the song idea was introduced to us in Sweden, but I don't remember the journey it took exactly, because we went to Sweden twice.
Right.
So yeah,
that's what happened. You guys came back to write, and you played me Rain, and I was like, holy.
It was great.
Holy.
Yeah.
I just remember that song sticking out and just going, yeah, you boys are ready now.
Yeah, we're ready. Yep, here we go. And 3 months later, we finished the album. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was amazing. That was the amazing time. Like, I just remember Pearson giving me the whole disc, and like, I was you guys were always like one of my favorites to come out of EMI. Like, I was just always like, this band is going to.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah. We definitely remember you.
Good. I'm glad you still remember me.
Remember your name is,
who?
I'm just kidding. No, we totally remember you. I mean, I specifically remember you, random thought, you got one of these snare drums to sound really magical. I don't know how you did it. It was like warm and deep, and like, I don't remember. It was amazing. So good work.
You know what it was?
What's that?
These ears.
Yep.
Ears.
Well, you sent me something the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you still using analog gear?" He's like, "No, that's all in the box." Dang it! Then you just have some ears. Then that's what it is. Yeah, he's using what is it?
I'll using Drummer Track and Logic, but I mean to mix though, like, I mean,
the headphone.
Well, not even just the headphone mix. So this is a funny story, Jason. I can't find a pair of monitors to save my life in LA because all the factories that were building Yamaha monitors ran out of parts during COVID and shut down.
Oh my god!
So most Yamaha monitors are in back order till October. I've paid for them. They're on their way. But like for now, I'm mixing on 7506s like you and I are wearing and Greg is wearing.
Wow! Oh wow! These are bright as can be.
Yeah,
right?
Try mixing with. So what I did was I said, I'll hack this. I'll figure out a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of did was I went out and got, it was super cheap. It was like $30. Was the Abbey Road control room plugin.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing is you can't leave it on when you go to print your mix because it's just basically the control room sound. But it worked really well to kind of just balance everything out. But at the same time, it's like it's not the same as mixing on speakers because your gain stage ends up being so much lower because you're not listening. It's the same.
Right.
What's really interesting with you and your story is you and I talked on the phone not too long ago, and you said at the beginning of COVID you were kind of all in. What were you kind of meaning by that? You were all in to kind of.
I think, I just think we can be really scared to, be all in with social media specifically. And so because as much as I don't want to admit, I worry about what people think all the time,
Sure.
So I think like COVID being home helped me sort of battle that, because it's like, we're here, we're home, we're at home. I got all this stuff. Like, I have no excuses,
right,
except for my insecurities of what are they going to think? What are my friends going to think?
Right.
So that's what I meant. Like, I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to be present and be myself and have no regrets about it, you know? So
where I think a lot of us are going through the same thing. Mike can agree to it. And then even for myself and many people. And that's the big thing for me. Like, like going all in, like not caring what people think, just really caring about like coming up with some really good content that really resonates no matter what, man. Like, so as long as I'm doing what I love, that's all that really matters. And the rest will fall into place. However, I started like realizing, like, cause I was doing marketing for businesses that, you know, I'm not really passionate about, but you know, I want to help people and give back. And, you know, why not? This is why we created the podcast, literally. Like, it to literally bring musicians like yourself, you know, everybody from all sides of the industry, whatever they're doing, and just kind of show people out there that are like us that there's a way to really go all in, and just, you don't have to start like you don't know where you're going to begin. Now you have a resource to come to hear inspiring stories, and you'll have resources to be available for musicians to be able to use that we're using for our podcast and for music creation and marketing. So it's like, now's the time to be able to tap into the things that you were always, you know, thinking about but never acted on. So, you know, you're a great looking guy. You're a great musician. You have everything working for you. You have the studio. So now you're going on and you're starting to brand yourself, right? You're starting to tap into that. But on the back end, before all the social media stuff, you have this, you know, licensing deal with the you say the company?
Music Bed. Mm-hmm.
Right? And Tone Tree, and I think that was all on the back end. So now everything else is just kind of developing the brand, and I think you're already there with the way you look. That's your image and what you're all about. So how's that? So with you getting over those insecurities that really don't matter at the end of the day, right?
Right. They really don't. You know, I just accepted that. As far as, you know, your friends are going to see your social media, and that's great. And if they judge you, then that's their thing, you know. And so. And I want everyone to love my music and stuff, but like, maybe it's, you know, my music is for, maybe it's not for them, you know, maybe it's for like, I don't know how to explain it. Like what am I trying to say? Like, your music doesn't have to please everybody. You can't please everyone. So just do your thing and know and expect that you're not going to please everyone. And that's part of the journey, and you'll grow from it, you know? So, I am developing the brand kind of as I go. And it's been fun because I'm like, okay, I guess I'm this kind of happy kind of music thing. But then the challenge is to not limit yourself to that only thing in that brand, you know? So it's been an interesting journey because I will be the first to admit that I am not a branding business person. I'm doing my best, but that's my weakness. And so that's where I'm just like, I don't know if these are the right colors. I don't know if this is the right picture, but this fits, and I'm just going to go for it, you know? So
I think here's the thing. We were talking with a band on an episode. They're called Water Tower Band. Awesome band. And they really took it to the next level. And the guy, Kenny, that we were talking to was like, I used to get overwhelmed by social media and coming up with content. And he was like, he got really depressed about it, because he's like, he knew he needed to do something. So when he put it this way, and this is really, really, this might help you too, shed some light on this topic. He started thinking about it like this. Hey, all I need to do is document the process of what we're doing, document the equipment that I use, right? Everything that I do, everything on a daily basis, weekly, monthly basis, all I need to do is put a camera up and just start documenting it and taking pieces of that documentation of the ecosystem of the song that you're putting out, and you put it in stages, right? And here's the thing. You have a little trailer with a picture, right? And then you have the music playing underneath, a little trailer. That's one little piece of content that you could do, right? And all you're doing is just repurposing the things that you're documenting. And when you look at it that way, I don't know how you feel about me saying that right now, but if you let it sink in, it really makes things come together a lot easier. It's like, okay, so I'm recording this song. Let's just put a camera up and I'll just show the steps that it took to record this song.
Which is what you kind of do already, right? Pretty much. I mean, when you give drum tutorials and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been a fairly new journey, but I have started to that. I've started doing that. What you're saying, exactly what you're saying, of like documenting and just admitting that like you kind of don't, like, I'll admit that like I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. Like I don't know exactly how to run this compressor behind me, but I do know that I feel like I have a good ear. Sure. And that's what I'm going to start trusting. And so
that's always more important. I always feel too, like, you know, people who do music recording and maybe came from a musician standpoint over being an actual like, trained engineer, which I really don't think matters all that much anymore.
Yeah.
Is this, you know, music is, you know, especially mixing and recording music is musical. It's 98% of it. A mix has to go together like an orchestra goes together. And I think people get so technical about it, like, oh, this compressor and this and that. It's like, you think my mixes sound good, right, Jay? And the thing is that I'm sitting here using a Focusrite USB Scarlett. There's nothing else going into that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nothing else.
And you know what I just found out about recording drums, Jason?
What's that?
From a really, really experienced drum tech that I'm really good friends with at my studio. He basically said, man, it comes from the source. So if the microphone if you back the microphone away, you give it enough space, you know, and you hear any type of peaking, and the mic's hot, you always go back to where you're placing the mic. And if you can get the mic exactly from the source where it's at, everything else will get the headroom you need to get those huge, large sounds. And then, you know, we recorded and we did what he said, and it ended up sounding great. And he wanted to go back and adjust it even more because he saw there could be backed off a little more. But it just shows you it's more of the ear. And then the strategy behind what he's saying, because a lot of people will be like, oh, we have the compressor, we could do it post. He's saying, no, get it right the first time. Yeah. And you don't have to do anything afterwards. You have to do, you know, it's much less work. So if you can get it from the source, you're going to have a really good, you know, good recording. That's all that. So
yes, completely agree.
And I love that. And I learned a lot from that session. And he showed me where to plug in from the mixer to the Focusrite to the computer. Instead, I was plugging right into the Focusrite, but he said, you know, why don't you just use the preamps on your actual live mixer and then go to the Focusrite.
It's another stage.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. No, I used to like want to be crazy safe about the signal going into the computer and like just compress if it gets too, that's all you want it to do. But then like, you know how much like a nice compressor costs? Like I do not want to pay that much. So it just kind of barely pushes a note, you know, like, I mean, I know there's reasons to have a clean, you know, not a lot of compression, but like, I want to hear this thing, you know? And so when I'll turn the knobs and it's compressing, I'm like, I like that. So I'm going to move forward now. I'm not going to worry about it.
I think also too, like, it's a situation of, you know, what is the situation called for?
Of course, yeah.
You know, are you doing stuff like, and it was put to me one time, it's like, are you doing stuff like 9 Inch Nails where this is very dense, compressed, noisy, you know, kind of environment of mixing where you are affecting a lot of stuff going to tape because that's part of getting the sound.
For sure, yeah.
Whereas if you're doing a jazz band and you're only using 3 mics because you want that air around the kit.
Right, exactly.
That makes a very, very different situation. You know, pop music's very tight. So usually I would compress pretty hard to whatever source we're going to, whether tape, Pro Tools, or whatever. I think also, too, with the digital age, yes, things are a little more sterile. I think also having a front end, like I see you have those Neve compressors in the lunchbox back there.
Yeah.
And then the compressors, preamps, he has the 1083s right there. Right by his head. Above the freaking distressor.
I love the setup too. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's got a really great setup.
I love your setup.
Oh, thank you.
But the thing is if you have 4 of those and you're just using those for kick, snare, and you're just using it for that, I think that makes up for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A ton of stuff.
Yeah, this was all bought very, very slowly, but it's just been so fun. And I'm a huge fan of plugins, like a lot. You know, I love plugins, but this is just, I've learned that for some reason, like, I'm not like a technical, you know, building compressors and transformer type guy. I'm not that at all. But I just learned that I feel inspired when I turn these knobs And I'm just going to chase that.
There's something about it. It's that with using compression. I mean, the other way I do it is like I'll use the actual like 1176, but I'll take the signal through like an aux return. Not to get too technical for all our listeners, because this just went down that road.
Yeah.
But I'll take like an aux return and I'll put 1176 on the backside of the microphone just to get that kind of transient going and send it to the track.
Right.
Out of the track to that. To me, that's also that's the way I would have done it back in the day with a split console. Like when I would track drums for you guys, like the tracking side would be on one side of the console, the monitoring side would be on the other, because Pearson would piss me off and pull freaking faders down. Chris,
we should have him on the show.
Oh, I got to call him and say hey anyway and see what he's up to, Mr. Catch.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask Jason. So for now that you're recording yourself, are you finding yourself, sending your mixes out to somebody else to finish for you, or is it just all you right now?
It's all me. The only thing I don't do that I passionately don't have an interest for is mastering. Like I'm not interested. Mastering is a whole nother thing. So I always mix it and then I'll send it to mastering. That's just something I personally feel like.
Sure.
I looked up on YouTube once and I was like, okay, I can master this song. And it was like, no. This is way too intense. And it's something I'm not interested in at all. I
mean, you got to understand the point of mastering though. I mean, it was really designed because because the grooves on a record had to be a certain size to be played well.
Oh yeah.
And so when you would master something, it was so that when you would go to press the acetates, and you're talking like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it was wildly important. And the mastering engineer had more of, the physical knowledge of how it was going to go down to the record. So the way we do it now, it's not as important. I mean, everyone puts L2 or linear multiband EQ. I would never discount a good mastering engineer. I've worked with some of the best in the world. I've mastered stuff I've recorded. And there's nothing better than that because it takes the objectivity out of your hands. It gives it to someone else,
Yeah. So I mix my own stuff, and it's not because I am prideful and have to mix, but I learned that I'm incredibly picky, and I'm mixing as I go. And it always just sounds great to me. I always make it to where I think it sounds great. And I'm like, okay, so it's mixed. Like I don't want to send it to somebody because it's already done. So
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Are you using Logic or Pro Tools?
Pro Tools.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just, I'm doing a few things to, different sounds, and I get it to where I like it. And I've talked to friends about potentially mixing some of these songs, but every time I do a rough mix, I'm like, it's there, so I guess I'm going to move forward.
I think a lot has to say with that is when you say you mix picky. I mean, you pretty much. I mean, from what I remember, what I can hear on your record. I mean, you don't really tune your vocals, right? You can't.
No, I don't run them through Melodyne. I mean, I've used Auto-Tune and Melodyne before.
But the thing is like your pitch is so amazing. Not your pitch is so good. But the thing is your pitch. Oh, come on.
Go on.
I mean, like when you guys used to sing backgrounds at Barefoot, it was very easy to do because there was no really tuning to do except maybe a little tightening up.
You got to
right.
Voice your
Pearson.
Seems like.
Just kidding. Am I? No. But the thing is like when you guys would do like your backgrounds and stuff, or you would do backgrounds and when someone would produce each people, or you would, or whatever, you guys were always in the ballpark. It wasn't hard to do. So I could see why you would want to mix picky because your ear's probably so refined, I would think at this point.
Yeah. And especially,
know what you want to get.
Yeah. Especially being a drummer too, you're just so picky. You want things to punch, you want things to be crispy and have low end and all this stuff. But yeah, the group, we all did a pretty good job going to tape, and so it wasn't that difficult to.
Oh yes, and we went to tape back then. Oh yes.
Oh yeah, we did.
Oh yeah, we did.
I love that old school mentality.
Yeah.
I like doing one take and then maybe going back and punching in a couple things, but I'm all about. I'll do as many as it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. My method's a little bit more spotty. Like I'll do a phrase and then I'll listen, but I definitely will do that versus, I'll fix it in post later. I know it's like a popular thing for people now is like, there's shirts, t-shirts, like I'll fix it in post. I'm like passionately against it now, like fix it now, like go to tape, like it now, and then you can just lightly fix it later, Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. It's you want, I think more so now than at any other time in my life, recording my own stuff. I don't want to, Logic gives you a lot of options to do that repeat, like punch in thing where it gives you 20 million takes and then you select from the takes.
Yeah.
I hate that. Like, give me one great take. Let me build off of that, especially with like guitars or vocals or whatever. And then we can talk about doing multiple layers and punch-ins and stuff like that. Yeah. But the thing is like, I love getting it where you're happy with it, where you commit to it, where it's something that that you want. Sometimes you don't, and you'd have to figure it out.
And I've actually learned that my sound is actually that imperfect vibe of like, I hit the note and it's in tune, but I didn't auto tune. So all the backgrounds aren't perfectly tuned, and then when you play it together, it's like it's got this human, for me in my opinion, it's got this human element to it, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to tune these because it sounds good, I'm good, so I know a lot of people are so used to like just, all right, next step is tuning, next step is fixing the drums, and so I've been trying to just get away from that.
And that's the thing, it's like you can analyze the paralyze any song out there.
Analysis
paralysis. And I think it's okay to be refined and produced.
Right.
But if your skills aren't up to par, get them there. And I'll just speak to my own experience in these past few months. I am not a great bass player at all. And I've mentioned it before in the podcast, but the thing is that there were some songs that I had a friend of mine really challenge me to, get it in the pocket, make it feel the way it should. And I was playing, because you're not a bass player, and most guitar players rhythmically are not great at it.
Unless you have a guitar player like Malcolm Young, who is an amazing rhythm guitar player.
But the thing is that regardless, Malcolm Young is a great rhythm player.
Angus said he was better than him.
Angus said he was better than him. Well, there you go. That's why he didn't play any leads. But it's important. But the thing is like once you really start making those mistakes over and over again, and you start figuring out what kind of builds that bass line, builds that drum part or whatever, and you can finally lock it in. Now I look at the stuff I play on bass when we're working on new songs, and I'll literally check it against flex time just cause.
Right.
And now it's like dead on. So subconsciously somewhere it went click, you know what I mean? And I think that people don't take enough of that time to make the mistakes, to make the time to actually learn how to really fashion their instrument properly and play it well.
They play multiple instruments too, right? So you're like, you don't have a bass player there. So now you're having to learn how to tap into being a bass player. So you have the aptitude because you learned how to play guitar. So there's no reason why you have a learning curve that you already bypassed, and you can just tap into it and just get it right down. But the thing that makes a bass player awesome to me is connecting with the drummer. So if you're doing a foot pattern, and generally the drummer's making that up before the bass player is, and if the bass player already has it down, great, I'll just follow the bass player. But generally, just follow my foot pattern, lock in there with the root notes, and everything else is in between, falls into place like so.
And by the way, I don't know if we've touched on this with you, Jason, but you played everything on your record, right?
Yep, except for the horns.
Except for the horns. You've played everything on your record. Yep. Guitar, keys, drums.
Yeah. Correct.
That's incredibly impressive.
Well, thank you.
Being for the complexity of the music that it is.
Yeah.
Most people.
Well, yeah. A lot of it's like, program keys, but then bass, because my dad's a bass player. And so that was laying around the house back to having musical parents. So, and then my mom was a piano teacher, so there's the keys part. But I don't like, I'm not a virtuoso or anything, but I'll play those parts and just kind of, I have one bass and I'll just record what I think needs to be there. And so it's just worked every time. I've actually thought about hiring a bass player for some of these songs. And again, it's like, I'm not picky. I'm not too good to do that. I like what I did, and I'm
Right.
just gonna go with that.
There you
So,
go.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I think from the start of this conversation, from my knowledge of what you're talking about here, or just from reiterating what you said, is you've had an open mind since the beginning. Because to be able to at 22 and work with several producers, and be able to be that open to let people in on your songwriting or your idea, or be able to collaborate, is such a, at that age, like starting there, like that's what younger musicians need to realize. Like, don't hoard your music or don't hoard your ideas, like collaborate. And I think amazing things happen when you collaborate. You get better and better and better as like just a musician in general. I think that's an underlining thing for you that like is sticking out to me in your character. And just like not letting yourself like be overcome with saying, okay, I'll get somebody else, because if it's good, it's good. You could tell by this, and if you couldn't, obviously you wouldn't be where you are today. Right?
Yeah, right. It's true. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think a lot of times I think a friend of mine says, listen with your ears, not your eyes, Yes. So if it's off, if your drums are off on the grid, just, if it sounds right, does it sound right? Yes. Is it off? Yes. But it sounds right. So that's all that matters, No,
I think the human element, you go back to that.
Yeah.
There's definitely times where I've said, okay, with bands, like it was much better if we just didn't pop it to the grid.
Right.
I think there's a lot of times, and there's so much out there, and I think country music in general started this trend in a major way with live music, where everything had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every vocal had to be perfect. Every drum piece had to be perfect, because we're this amazing amount of superior musicianship coming out of this little town in Tennessee.
Right.
And I feel like that kind of destroyed it, because I feel like you lose the feel to things
organic
from time to time. Right. And I think that if it's a little bit behind the beat, like you listen to Black Crowes records, right?
Oh yeah.
The two I think of the most is not Shake Your Money Maker, but Southern Harmony and the Musical Companion, which they recorded in 2 weeks. It's dirty, it's nasty, it's played raw. And the other one, Amorica, which they did with Jack Joseph Puig.
Oh.
And that record sounds amazing too. For a whole other set of reasons. It's this more refined, more jammy kind of sound, but it's still, you can tell it was done on 2-inch tape. There was no Pro Tools. There was nothing. And yes, there's things that are off about both of those records.
But that's what makes them unique.
But that's what makes them freaking great.
Right.
Now, I feel like if you're so far away from what the meter is of the tempo, then you got issues.
Right.
And I've heard records like that too.
Right.
Probably made songs like that too.
Of course.
Yeah,
there's that difference of like, did you mess up or is it just human? Like,
yeah. Which one is it?
Yeah.
So, it's always an amazing thing. Hey, so I want to be respectful of your time today. And
you're good.
We so appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want you, we've talked so much about your career. I think people can really deduce from that what they want for their own personal experience. But what is the one thing, and maybe not even the one thing, maybe it's a whole set of things in the business right now that young musicians are falling short on, that you see, that you think that
great question.
If someone listening to this, they could get a piece of advice, and not to say that you're the be all end all, but the thing is what is something that you see that you wish would change to kind of improve musicality or promotion or something like that, when people come into the situation like you, where you're a solo artist, you play everything. And I think that's going to be more and more common as time goes on, versus the days of when you and I were together, riding together, as we could say. Where it was, there's producers and writers, and we had to go to studios, and everyone has it at home or in the palm of their hand.
Yeah.
What's some of the things that you see that you really wish would maybe change a little bit or kind of be preserved?
Well, I think I'm going to answer this right. So I think I've just been a big fan of like all the sayings that you hear throughout your life that are they're old. You've heard them a million times, like, just be yourself, and all these things. You're like, I get it. I've heard that a million times. For some reason,
the cliche,
the cliches, have, and the same thing with being a dad, which every dad is like, you'll never.
Which by the way, that just hit me between the eyes. I'm like, he is a dad. I'm like, what?
I know, it's crazy. But it's like, before I was a dad, every dad was like, you'll never know love until you have your own kids. And I'm like, I've heard that. I get it. And then you have your own kid and you're like, you'll never know love. Right. So you start saying the same thing. So it's the old sayings are popular because they're true. And so my biggest thing is like, if we can just get past the comparing yourself to other people and just like embrace yourself, like just be yourself, you know. And I don't know, I've just been living in that so much lately that if I start referencing the top 10 songs, pop songs, I'll start comparing myself. Oh, was his mix is better and the whatever. And so
it's like just be you. Yeah, sure.
Just be you. Like be proud of your gut instincts. Like be proud of those things because those make your sound so unique. Mm-hmm. And if I would have referenced all these different mixes and then started creating what I did, none of this.
You'd be chasing a trend, essentially.
Yeah,
it would never get done.
So, yeah, nothing would get done. So I have just started to be so proud of my gut instincts that say, I like that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use that sound instead of being like, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Like, is it, is it poppy enough or whatever?
Right.
And so I don't know. I guess I want people to not worry about that stuff and just feel empowered because their uniqueness is what makes them unique, you know, and comparing themselves is a big one for me too. So just, I don't know, I could go on, but
you're right.
I'm just passionate about that part of it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's that's actually the message here is, you may whatever level you're at, just be open to somebody either helping you and showing you, or if you have a vision of what you want your music to sound like and it's not there by yourself, be open to somebody helping you. That's awesome. But also give yourself the chance to like what you're doing before you go and start working with other people. Like trust your gut instinct, because for the most part, especially when you're like many years into playing music and writing music, that's what you need to do, because otherwise you're just depending on everybody else. And I think there's something to be said about that. And if you don't start acting on those gut instincts, you're just gonna waste your time, and you're not really be able to live in the moment and enjoy what you're doing. 1, 2, be overcritical of everything, and nothing will get done at all. And then 3, just nothing will happen. So look at what you've done by acting on what you think is right, and not thinking outside of yourself that it's wrong. That's great. Just take initiative, imperfect action. Really,
absolutely. Yeah, not overthinking it and just going for it. And so, just going for it. And like another thing that I feel like I have struggled with is like if I see, especially like on Instagram, if you see someone's gear, you see all this amazing gear. What I've learned is that it took me 10 plus years. I've been married for 10 years to get this stuff. So you see it.
Really?
Like, yeah. I just celebrated 10 years.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you see people's stuff and you're just like, but I don't have that, so my music won't be good. And it's just all lies. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Like you said, like Mike, you work with a Focusrite, and that's great, So
it does
like,
what I need. It does what I need it to do, because I use my ears for everything else. Like
gear helps for sure. I'm super passionate about it, but it's not gonna make my songs any better. It's just if the songs are crap, then this gear is gonna record crap.
It kind of really brings it back to head, hands, heart.
Well, and also
heart, hands.
You don't have to have everything right now. Get what you need to be able to do what you need to get done, and then incrementally add on from there. And you learn what you have first, the resources that you have. We always have the shiny object syndrome. I need this. I need this. No. I have a Focusrite 1820. I just got it because Mike had recommended it to me to record my drums. So now I'm starting to learn how to do that. Like, that's all I really need at this point. I'm going to get Logic because it's obviously going to help me. But anything more outside of that, I don't really need right now.
Right.
You don't need all this equipment to do that. You can get by with just GarageBand. It's amazing what GarageBand can yield as a creative and being able to get your ideas out. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, but I think also too, with small programs like that, it's easier to learn on them because you don't have 10 million bells and whistles. You got to figure out in Pro Tools.
For me, like my inexperience, I've used Pro Tools all my life, but I never recorded, right? I was the one, playing. So that was awesome for me. But when I started getting into recording, now it's like, Pro Tools is a little, it's intimidating because there's so many bells and whistles. So GarageBand gives
especially now.
the subscription base and the updates and all that, the license rights and stuff. So now it's like I start with GarageBand and I'm recording my vocals, I'm recording my drums, I'm recording this, and I'm starting to realize, oh, okay, this is a lot easier than I thought. And then you start doing your video stuff, and then you realize that there's a learning curve there too, of course.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like the same kind of strategy. It's like the same interface. It's just video, right? So, so on my inexperience, I'm getting more confident going along because of the fact that I don't have to just get overwhelmed by all these bells and whistles, and just taking that initiative to just track stuff and then figure it out from there, go back and forth with Mike, my friends, and just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, I'm sure we're all Gary Vee fans over here. So he's a big part of my.
He is literally one from New Jersey. Two.
Oh.
One of Christina's managers, the wine library that the store that his dad and him had was like literally right down the street from where my buddy lived. I've seen him working in that store.
Cool.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Gary Vee.
Oh, Gary Vee is from New Jersey. Yeah, actually, he was on my old company. He was on the board of directors. We interviewed him on our podcast. And
cool.
I love Gary Vee in the fact that he doesn't play anything. He's not really anything of a talent. He's just a no nonsense guy, and he just that's it. Just
he's a brand he's built off of, like anyone else, like we do with this podcast, like Jason does with his music.
Yeah. I wish I could tell him thank you. I mean, I don't know if I ever will, but I'm like, dude, and there's just been things I've needed to hear so many times about, like, just do, like, stop overthinking it.
Well, or like, we were talking about one, overthinking it, which is a big thing of his, and also not giving a two poops about your what other people think.
Yeah.
That comparison thing. I think it's the one thing that holds so many people back. I know it held me back in business early on because I would be like, why is that guy getting it and I'm not? The thing is when you start comparing yourself, I feel like you slowly die on the inside.
Well, yeah, like comparison, that quote, comparison is the thief of joy, and so
yes,
it just takes it all away. And so, I mean, there are guys who have way more gear than I do, and I could compare myself and all that. And I'm like, no, that's their journey. It has nothing to do with my journey at all, So,
it's funny you say that, when we were working at EMI, you remember how minimal that studio was and how many problems it has and how many workarounds I had to do just to get things to sound right.
Yeah.
But it always sounded right.
It did, yeah.
So
there you go.
You don't, it'd be great to have an SSL in my living room right now. It'd be awesome. But I have the plugin in Logic, so we'll just deal with that,
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
We gotta make the best of it.
Fraction of the cost.
So yeah, we're kind of rounding out here. And is there any? So that was what to say, right? So you could tell people where they could find you and just kind of
plug yourself, Deering.
Of course, I am on Instagram, Jason Deering. Jason Deering Music. So it's Jason and then DERING Music on pretty much all the social media platforms. But I'm very active on Instagram, which has recently changed their platform. It's been super cool. The what is it called? The Reels. Have you seen that?
It came out yesterday, a day before.
Yeah,
the Reels. So it's a Facebook invention. So it's basically so that Instagram Live and Facebook IGTV. Sorry, IGTV can be transferable to Facebook is what.
Oh, well, they should because you can.
They're owned by the same freaking monster. Yeah. So,
yeah. Sorry to derail there, but so that's where you can find me, and then I'm on all the digital music platforms as well. So
great.
Anywhere you listen to music, I'm there.
You're there. Turn around. You're there.
Wherever you go, there you are.
There you are,
yes, sir.
Brother. Always great to see you, and I don't see your face enough, and don't talk to you enough.
Nice face.
Hey, nice face, pal.
Mike says he always has he has a great face for radio.
I do have a great face for radio. I have an amazing face for radio.
Yeah.
What? That's a compliment, dude. What are you talking?
Well, you do, yeah. You just need to make some like noise on your desk, like radio hosts do.
Any buttons? Well, we do have we could make a noise with put our platform on this.
Yeah,
they have like noise, like different. doing that right now.
Big time.
No, but thank you for having me. Yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. It was such a pleasure, and it's always good to relive stuff with you. And if you see fellow ex-members of Barefoot, tell them I say hello. But I'm going to call Pearson and try to get him on the show.
That'd be amazing. Yeah,
help me out with that one.
I will.
You know how good he is at answering his phone, Pearson.
I do know. No, it's an honor to be here. Thank you, and I hope y'all, enjoyed some conversation. But thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Dude, such a privilege, and we'll be talking soon, brother.
Okay, thank you guys.
Have a great one, Jason.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you freeze? No, it's just your face. It's your mug.
Nope.
Pretty epic episode. We went real long with him. He's a great human being. Jason, to me, and I know I gave him a sparkling
introduction,
but Jason, to me, you meet a lot of guys in the music business who don't kind of walk the walk of kind of like what Lindsay Medina said from Veeps, like, be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Jason doesn't know any other way. Thank God.
You can feel that from him.
You can feel that from him. He's just such a good dude from Texas, amazing musician. And there's just, when you're around him, and you can even see in this interview, there's just a certain aura about him that he's Jason, and there's nothing that's going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
He's always going to do the right thing by people. He's always, and that's a little bit off the topic of music, but
no, he wasn't.
When you want to, like, I've always wanted to surround myself with good people, like you, like, the people a lot of the guests we've had on this show, who are friends of ours. It's always been a concern of mine of like, how would you want to see your career designed? How would you want to see it as?
How do you want people to see you?
But I think also, what are your associations that are brought to that? Speak a lot about who you are.
Agreed.
And I always felt like the guys in Barefoot, every one of them, and not to take anything away from them, by saying Jason's so great, but like Matt, Munsell, some of the funniest, kindest guy, Pearson, Clay, some of the funniest, kindest guys you'll ever meet in your life. Just so sweet, so nice, and just such good human beings and just such decent people. And that's what really, when I was working with them, that's one thing I didn't mention in the episode, was they were the easiest clients to have. Because at EMI, even though it was great, there was a lot of pressure amongst people. And you know how writers can get. It's like, this is my last hit, and I need to get another hit, and I need to keep my fucking publishing deal, and all this stuff. And it's like, what I like about Jason and how I approach music now. Let's go out and have fun and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and do it.
Don't think about anything. Just live. Just have the experience and commit.
Exactly.
Everything else will fall.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's great in the fact that I don't think he was tainted.
Jason's come back. Hold on one second.
Hello?
Yeah, is there something we forgot, sir?
No, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, no, nothing I forgot. I was just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you were, see, dude. So I mean, Greg, we were doing our post-show thing, and I said, Jason's probably one of the most decent, most caring, amazing human beings in the world, and you just proved my point.
There you go.
There you go.
I didn't know y'all were still working.
Yeah, dude, we do like a post-show thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to disturb y'all, but I just want to say thanks.
Dude, I love it. We'll talk to you soon, Jason.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks,
see
man.
ya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Proved my point for me.
Validation.
There you
go. So great. Learned a lot. And I think for everybody out there, again, just take action.
Yeah, always take action.
And don't be afraid of criticism, because you're going to get it no matter where you hear it from. And from the people that you actually show it to, make sure there are people that are doing it.
That their opinions are valuable.
Right. And even the ones that aren't, you could just let go through one ear and out the other and just keep doing. Yeah. And that's the thing. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Well, I'm going to say this. a episode length of 91 minutes, which we are at. Always a pleasure, Greggy boy.
Ditto.
Real quick, before we get out of here, next episode is going to be Fox Fagan.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Fox is awesome. He is not only the brainchild with his partner Billy Hillstrom of the band Telescopes, but also he's a working session musician. He's played in Wilson Phillips. And last year he was touring with Chris Shiflett from Foo Fighters. So he's also a producer, engineer, and he's got a great studio here in North Hollywood, where I live.
Fantastic.
And just really talented dude, and has a really great worldview on how music is going. Anyway, dude.
Thank you.
Combine out. I'll
Combine
talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm out to throw a wild card at you. You know I'm gonna have to throw a wild card. Cause lately I've been thinking about you. Yeah, stuck on you like glue. Cancel them plans, because I want you in my arms tonight, and I won't ever let go. You know I'll wait for your love. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you. But when you call me baby, I'll make some time for you. I ain't got nothing to do but be lazy. So move a little close to me, cause I'ma move a little bit close to you. Cause I love it when you make me who I wanna be. So move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Now what am I supposed to do? And now I got my eye on you. It's like I got laser vision. Whoa, you got my attention. I never felt this way before. It's like you got my attention so effortlessly, so effortlessly. But when you say baby, I'll make some time for you. I ain't got nothing to do but be lazy. So move a little close to me, cause I'ma move a little bit close to you. Cause I love it when you make me who I wanna be. So move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Move a little closer, move a little closer, move a little close to me. Let me explain myself, yeah. You know I wanna be a little bit close to you, yeah. I wanna be closer. Extra spice, the sizzle in my life. So come a little closer, that will be alright. But when you say baby, I'll make some time for you. I ain't got nothing to do but be lazy. So move a little close to me, cause I'll move a little bit close to you. Cause I love it when you make me who I wanna be. So move a little close to me. Girls make me say baby. Girls make me say baby. Girls make me say baby. Da 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 da. Girls make me say baby. Girls make me say baby. Girls make me say baby. Da 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 da. That's a wrap.